April 9th, 1865. You're witnessing America's bloodiest Civil War die in a Virginia courthouse town. General Robert Edward Lee sits alone, trembling hands clutching his final orders. Today, aristocratic honor bows to democratic destiny. I am Lee's weathered fingers buttoning this dress uniform one final time. 4 years of Confederate dreams crumble with dawn's arrival. My sleeping soldiers deserve better than this approaching surrender, yet duty demands I spare their precious lives. Wilmer McLean's parlor waits like destiny's stage. This furniture dealer fled Bull Run's chaos seeking peace, only to have war's finale unfold in his sitting room. From first battle to last surrender, war pursued him relentlessly. Lee's army flees westward like wounded wolves pursued by federal hounds. Once proud regiments dissolve into skeletal companies. Virginia's muddy roads swallow Confederate dreams, while hunger devours Southern hopes with each labored step toward inevitable doom. Grant's crushing migraine mirrors his moral anguish. The butcher of Vicksburg secretly abhors destroying old West Point classmates. His headache pounds with artillery, each explosion reminding him that victory tastes bitter when served with friends' blood. Charles Marshall, Lee's devoted aide, whispers harsh truths through tears. This Harvard-educated lawyer abandoned his comfortable Baltimore practice to serve the Confederacy. Now he must tell his idol, "General, our cause is lost. Surrender remains our only honorable choice." I am Private James Robertson's trembling pen, writing farewell. Dearest Mother, we fought like lions, but God favors the Union. This Virginia farm boy enlisted at 17, dreaming of glory. Instead, he faces capture or death at 21. Support our channel. Subscribe so you won't miss exciting new videos. Your likes and comments inspire us to create more quality content. Together, we'll make this channel a place of knowledge and inspiration. Thank you for your support. Dawn reveals cruel contrasts. Confederate officers polish brass buttons on threadbare uniforms while their men boil tree bark for breakfast. Dignity masks starvation as Lee's gentlemen soldiers prepare for history's most gracious defeat in American military annals. I watch my generals debate, glorious death versus honorable surrender? Longstreet argues for capitulation. Gordon demands final charge. Outside, dogwood blossoms mock our withered hopes. Must I choose between my soldiers' lives and the South's dying honor? John Gordon's desperate dawn assault lasts exactly 30 minutes. This former Georgia lawyer turned warrior launches the Confederacy's last offensive with 1,500 starving men against overwhelming odds. The famous rebel yell echoes one final time across Appomattox's blood-soaked fields. I would rather die 1,000 deaths than surrender to those people. These words taste like ashes in my mouth, while apple blossoms promise Virginia's renewal. Must this beautiful spring witness my army's funeral beneath blooming trees? The white flag appears at 10:30 sharp. A lone Confederate courier rides forward, his horse stepping delicately between fresh corpses. Gunfire ceases abruptly, leaving eerie silence that terrifies both armies more than battle's familiar thunder ever could. Grant reads Lee's surrender request twice, hands shaking slightly. The conqueror of Richmond gazes toward the Virginia hills where his old friend waits. "This ends everything," he whispers, unsure whether relief or profound sorrow dominates his conflicted heart. Lee bathes meticulously in his tent, shaving with ceremonial precision. His finest gray uniform, Mary's needlework gleaming with golden braid, transforms defeat into dignified ceremony. Each button fastened becomes armor against humiliation, each crease a barrier protecting Southern honor. Grant arrives mud-splattered, wearing a common private's blouse without decorations. While Lee dressed like European royalty, the Union commander resembles a dusty farmer. Victory requires no ornamentation, only Lincoln's prairie lawyer defeating Virginia's aristocratic general through democratic simplicity. The McLean parlor becomes America's most important theater. Two generals enter cautiously, Lee magnificent in defeat, Grant rumpled in victory. These former Mexican War comrades now embody their section's souls, aristocratic South meeting democratic North. My feelings were sad rather than joyful, Grant confessed later. Military triumph felt hollow when destroying valiant opponents who'd fought courageously for 4 years. The Union commander discovered that victory over fellow Americans brought sorrow, not satisfaction. I am the electric tension crackling between these men. Two Americas collide in this small room, one dying gracefully, one being born painfully. Lee sits rigid as marble, Grant slouches comfortably, muddy boots defying protocol in democracy's ultimate victory. The object of our present meeting is fully understood, Lee begins with courtly formality. His voice carries 4 years of Confederate defeat, yet remains steady as Blue Ridge granite. Even surrender becomes elegant when performed by Virginia's greatest gentleman soldier. Grant's terms emerge with startling gentleness. Officers keep sidearms, soldiers retain horses for spring plowing. No treason trials will follow, the prairie lawyer's greatest gift to America. Magnanimity defeats vengeance in this Virginia parlor's quiet revolution. Allie Parker, Seneca Sachem and Grant's military secretary, prepares surrender documents in elegant script. When Lee shakes the Native American's hand, "Glad to see one real American here," Parker replies prophetically, "We are all Americans now." Lee signs with rock-steady hand despite inner turmoil. Each pen stroke ends a soldier's war, a mother's vigil, a nation's nightmare. Outside, federal bands play Dixie, victors honoring their courageous enemies' musical heritage with unexpected respect. Joshua Chamberlain, Gettysburg hero turned ceremonial master, commands the Federal Honor Guard 3 days later. As Confederates stack arms, he orders "present arms," Union soldiers saluting defeated brothers in warfare's most gracious moment. Confederate battle flags tell silent stories no historian captures. These tattered silk witnesses survive Shiloh's hell, Antietam's bloodbath, Gettysburg's carnage. Now veterans kiss sacred colors one last time before laying them permanently in Virginia's consecrated soil. I am Gordon's brigade marching past in perfect formation, heads high despite crushing defeat. Federal soldiers remove caps respectfully, recognizing courage transcending victory or loss. Honor salutes honor as democracy acknowledges aristocracy's brave but doomed final performance. Lee's farewell reaches his men like a benediction. After 4 years marked by unsurpassed courage and fortitude, the Army of Northern Virginia yields to overwhelming numbers and resources. Every word carries heartbreak, wrapped in proud Southern dignity. The general's last ride through camp becomes instant legend. Veterans weep openly, desperately touching travelers' flanks. "We'll fight on, General," they cry through tears. Lee responds gently, "Go home and become good American citizens once more." Grant immediately releases Confederate medical supplies, shares federal rations with former enemies. "These men are our countrymen again," he declares, forbidding victory celebrations that might humiliate Lee's brave soldiers. Healing begins before surrender papers dry completely. The McLean parlor empties slowly, witnesses reluctant abandoning history's sacred stage. Lee emerges first, face betraying nothing. Grant follows, already planning reconciliation over revenge. Their final handshake lingers, two soldiers acknowledging mutual respect transcending political differences. Traveler senses his master's profound grief, stepping gently through streets lined with blue uniforms. This gray stallion carried Lee through countless battles, sharing victories and defeats. Now even horses participate in surrender's solemn ceremony. Colonel Charles Marshall records Lee's final headquarters scene with lawyer's precision. The general sits alone, writing orders that will never be obeyed, signing documents for an army existing only in memory's sacred halls of Confederate glory. Surrender news spreads like wildfire across divided America. Richmond women weep behind shuttered windows, while Washington church bells ring victory peals. Yet something unprecedented occurs, a civil war ending without mass executions or governmental revenge against rebels. I am 28,000 Confederate soldiers walking home through landscapes our war devastated completely. Many carry only memories and wounds as souvenirs of 4 years' service. Our homeward odyssey proves as challenging as any battle survived. Grant's Washington telegram demonstrates masterful understatement. General Lee surrendered the Army of Northern Virginia this afternoon upon terms proposed by myself. 25 simple words officially end America's bloodiest conflict in the Virginia countryside spring afternoon. Anxious families scan newspaper lists desperately, seeking sons' names among the paroled. Hope and grief intermingle as the reunited nation begins counting its enormous cost. 600,000 precious lives sacrificed on democracy's altar of freedom. Jefferson Davis flees southward in denial, receiving surrender news with shock and angry disbelief. The Confederate president refuses to accept defeat, dreaming of continued trans-Mississippi resistance. His delusion costs precious weeks of futile flight toward inevitable capture. Support our channel. Subscribe so you won't miss exciting new videos. Your likes and comments inspire us to create more quality content. Together, we'll make this channel a place of knowledge and inspiration. Thank you for your support. Abraham Lincoln whispers gratefully, "Thank God I have lived to see this blessed day of peace." The Prairie President immediately begins planning magnanimous Reconstruction policies. Tragically, he possesses only 5 days remaining to implement his merciful vision. Lee's homeward route becomes pilgrimage of Southern grief. At every crossroads, veterans wait glimpsing their fallen commander. Many kneel as traveler passes, treating Lee like a martyred saint rather than defeated general returning to civilian life. Lee discovers Mary's rose garden blooming magnificently at Richmond's Franklin Street, completely untouched by war's devastation. Beauty survived where armies failed, a perfect metaphor for America's possible renewal through forgiveness rather than continued hatred and sectional revenge. Federal occupation forces treat Lee with surprising courtesy following Grant's explicit orders. No arrests or harassment for the Confederate commander. This unprecedented magnanimity confuses radical Republican politicians demanding immediate treason trials for all rebel leaders. Lee's first civilian meal consists of simple cornbread and milk served in Mary's delicate china cup. The former general eats slowly, savoring peace more than food, while Richmond's blackened ruins remind him of military failure. Grant faces intense political pressure post-surrender. Radical Republicans demand Confederate leaders' immediate execution, while Grant argues passionately for national reconciliation. His protection of former enemies establishes crucial precedents shaping Reconstruction's initially moderate phase. The Confederate treasury vanishes into Virginia hills, spawning treasure hunters' fantasies lasting generations. Reality proves simpler. The Confederacy died completely bankrupt, its currency worthless as autumn leaves scattered by harsh winds of military defeat. Lee's surrender creates unexpected logistical nightmares, housing 28,000 suddenly released soldiers on Virginia's ravaged landscape. Many walk hundreds of miles homeward through countryside, stripped bare by 4 years of continuous military campaigning and destruction. Northern newspapers struggle describing surrender's unusual mood accurately. Harper's Weekly praises it as magnanimous, while radical publications demand harsher terms. Grant's unexpected generosity surprises a war-weary nation, anticipating vengeful victory celebrations over defeated rebels. Federal officers pillage the McLean parlor within hours, seizing furniture as victory souvenirs. Poor Wilmer McLean receives only worthless Confederate currency as compensation. History's sacred stage becomes a tourist attraction before surrender documents finish drying completely. Lee begins his remarkable post-war metamorphosis immediately after surrender. Within days, he's writing former Confederate generals urging graceful acceptance of defeat and dedicated work toward national reconciliation. His moral authority now exceeds his former military leadership. Grant's crushing migraine vanishes the precise moment Lee signs surrender documents. The debilitating headache plaguing him for days disappears with war's official end. Perhaps human bodies understand what troubled minds sometimes forget about peace's healing power. The Army of Northern Virginia's final muster roll tells America's story in surnames: Jones from Georgia, Schmidt from Texas, O'Malley from Louisiana. This Confederate force was genuinely American in composition, despite fighting against United States authority. Lee's last official act involves reviewing devastating casualty reports. 28,000 survivors remain from an army once numbering 80,000 brave souls. War's brutal mathematics offer no comfort, only the stark arithmetic of Confederate loss and sacrifice. Federal soldiers immediately share rations with former enemies before ceremonies end. Hungry Confederates accept hardtack and coffee gratefully, too exhausted for false pride. Human brotherhood reasserts itself naturally despite 4 years of attempted mutual annihilation. Surrender's legal implications baffle constitutional scholars completely. Are Confederate soldiers traitors or legitimate prisoners of war? Grant's practical parole system sidesteps complex questions elegantly through battlefield pragmatism rather than courtroom legal theory and precedent. Lee's ceremonial sword becomes legend's obsession among later generations. Did he surrender it formally to Grant? Historical evidence suggests otherwise. Grant's magnanimity permitted officers retaining sidearms. Symbolic myth mattered more than factual truth in reconciliation. Appomattox civilians emerged from hiding to witness history's unfolding drama. Children who cowered in root cellars observe armies shaking hands after years of killing. These young witnesses will carry surrender memories through Reconstruction's bitter trials. The war's human cost defies comprehension or adequate mourning. 600,000 Americans perished, exceeding all other American conflicts combined. Lee and Grant both understand that ceremonial handshakes cannot resurrect the precious dead or heal the permanently maimed. Grant's staff urges victory celebration, but their commander firmly refuses. The war is over completely. The rebels are our countrymen again, he declares. His deliberate restraint establishes the proper tone for magnanimous victory over fellow Americans. Lee's dignified bearing impresses even his enemies profoundly. Colonel Horace Porter wrote admiringly, "His bearing was that of a thoroughly possessed gentleman confronting disagreeable duty, yet determined to finish it properly and as quickly as possible. Surrender documents will be preserved in National Archives' climate-controlled vaults, but their true significance lives within human hearts." 2 American generals chose reconciliation over revenge, establishing precedents for national healing after bitter internal conflict. Departing federal troops realize they've witnessed something unprecedented in military history worldwide. Enemies parted as friends, setting aside murderous hatred for their reunited country's sake. This miracle would inspire future generations facing seemingly irreconcilable national divisions. Lee's physical journey from Appomattox to Richmond requires 3 days, but his spiritual transformation from general to private citizen demands years of patient adjustment. He'll become Washington College president, educating Southern youth for peaceful pursuits. Grant and Lee never met again after Appomattox's sacred moment, yet their reconciliation became America's founding myth of reunion. Two former enemies chose healing their wounded nation over nurturing personal hatred and sectional revenge fantasies. Apple trees bloomed magnificently that April morning, white blossoms promising abundant harvest despite winter's harsh devastation. Nature's eternal renewal mirrored the reunited nation's infinite possibility: forgiveness, conquering vengeance, healing triumphing over hatred's destructive power in human hearts. Grant's final words at Appomattox resonate through history: "Let us have peace." This simple phrase carries profound meaning. Two American generals ended their country's bloodiest war with handshakes rather than hangings, choosing reconciliation over revenge. I am the eternal echo still resonating through Appomattox Court House, carefully preserved as reconciliation's shrine. Modern visitors walk these same rooms where Lee and Grant prove peace remains possible even after seemingly unforgivable loss. Today, their momentous choice still speaks to America's soul. Our nation survives when citizens choose unity over division, healing over hatred. Appomattox's timeless lesson endures. Reconciliation remains eternally possible after even the bitterest conflicts imaginable throughout human history.